good evening, good morning, good whatever it is, wherever you are, and welcome back to Sudden But Inevitable, the sci-fi rewatch podcast that is dedicated to single-season space westerns that were canceled before their time. I, of course, am your host, Captain Bootscoot, aka Vanilla Husband, aka Jesse, and with me, as always this week, is my very good friend and co-host, Josh. Josh, welcome back to Sudden But Inevitable. How's your Friday going?
It is. It's going good. It's going good. Again, best part of my week. I have some huge, crazy changes happening tomorrow. So today, I'm very excited to be doing this.
I am very excited to have you with my friend, and I gotta say, huge, crazy changes are not new here at Sudden But Inevitable, but they never get easier. However, I gotta say, if I may, you should be confident in this one because you have a plan, and I know it's gonna work out. That having
Yes.
been said,
No, I'm fully confident. It's a huge thing. It's a crazy thing going on. But this is my last podcast in the state of Colorado.
ooh, it's an exclusive.
What?
It's an exclusive. We have Josh's last Colorado podcast here at Sudden But Inevitable.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah.
being with us, man. I know that this is, like you said, right before all the stress hits you for the weekend. So I appreciate you taking the time to be here. And I know that, I mean, honestly, every week we all have stuff going on and we manage to cram this in.
Absolutely.
And cramming it in is what this next person does best. Of course, I'm talking about Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. Welcome to the show, Ricky D. How's your Friday going?
Oh, it has been one heck of a week. I had to call off work the past few days. I'm barely dragging by, but I'm here for the podcast. I'm going to get in what I need to say and taking it easy, I guess.
That's the way to be. And as you may know, if you have listened to Sudden But Inevitable or watched before, my good friends on the screen with me have a tendency to feel misrepresented in their views if they're not here, and they feel like I just sort of assign them some observations, shall we say. Now, I think that if this next person, our final guest for season 3 of Sudden But Inevitable, which of course is covering the live action series Cowboy Bebop, I think if this next person were to assign you observations, you would have fewer objections, maybe. Of course, I'm talking about friend of the Twist My Arm Network and Cowboy Bebop superfan, Phil. Welcome back to Sudden But Inevitable, Phil. Thank you for being here with us. How was your Friday, man?
Hey guys, it is good to be back. It has been a pretty decent Friday. I had actually moved myself earlier in the week, so it's been pretty good.
Man, everybody is leaving or moving, and there is change happening. Like, it's like there's real life happening behind this podcast, you guys. Now, before we jump
Adulthood
in,
or something. It sucks.
I wouldn't go that far.
What?
Oh, that far I would go, yes. But before we jump in this week, we do have to say hello to some beautiful, wonderful, supportive folks in our live chat. That's something that not all of our listeners appreciate, but that's okay. We're going to do it anyway. I want to say hello to Angelus, hello to Sean, hello to Rosie, hello to Callie D. I just am so happy to have you all here with us in the live chat, supporting us as you do every week. It means the world to us, and Sudden But Inevitable would be very different without you. It would have, I would say, 40% less heart, at least. Now, speaking of, did you guys hear that John DiMaggio is going back to Futurama? Anyways, this isn't a Futurama podcast.
Yeah.
This podcast this podcast is about, as I mentioned, the live action Cowboy Bebop series. Now, Phil, I did introduce you as the Superfan, and that is sort of your moniker here at the network for Cowboy Bebop. You have joined us once before for this series, and you joined us for the original anime series, but really quickly, go ahead and give the live viewers and our listeners a quick recap of how you came to the series and what it is that makes Cowboy Bebop your home.
All right. Well, I mean, I got hooked into Sudden But Inevitable via Ricky D, college roommate Ricky D. But I've been watching Cowboy Bebop since off and on since high school, and have just kind of picked up bits and pieces of it throughout, and then finally got all the way through it a couple of times in college, and keep going back to it every couple of years.
And let's just get it out of the way. What do you think of the live action adaptation? Do you hate it as a huge Cowboy Bebop of the fan of the original series, do you hate the adaptation, or are you level-headed?
Uh, only a little bit of a loaded question there. No, I am very upset. I am very, very upset about the live action Cowboy Bebop
Because
because it got canceled already. I would have loved to see what they did with another season, because we'll get to it, but there's a lot of threads that were left at the end of
okay,
this.
I mean that is an understatement, my friend, and I would be remiss if I didn't say, go follow me on Twitter at SuddenButt. If you do that, you may have noticed an interaction that I had with, I promise this is my best attempt at your name, sir, Javier Grillo Marxwatch, who was one of the executive producers and writers for the Cowboy Bebop live action series. I said, we feel robbed of a second series. And he replied to me and said, you have no idea, all joking aside. So it's like, ugh, how much does that hurt? Just to know that even the people that created this show are like, season 2 is where it is at. You don't even know what you're missing. It's just, it feels.
Well, see,
I
and
don't
that's
know.
that's what I was saying. Like in our little green room before we started, I'm pretty sure that one of the higher up executives in Netflix, like the CEO or the CEO's son or something, like had to have been a huge fan of the original Cowboy Bebop and just hated this one. And so at the end, he was just like, "Nope, done." Pull the plug because it was quick. It was quick,
But I know, but it's like,
quicker than normal.
I feel like any huge fan of the original series that really watched this with an open heart and like fond memories of the original series would fall in love with it. So maybe there was somebody who was like cynically going, you know what, it's going to generate views for the anime that we just acquired anyway, so who cares? Let's just cancel it. I have no idea. I mean, to your point, it could be literally
I
any
like
combination of things, right?
I like to
It
think
could
it's some
be
sort of spiteful executive that
it
just
could be
hates
it could
everything
be a
cool.
gatekeepy fan. Like it could easily be a gatekeepy fan. That's a very good point. It's just like the speed with which it happened was just ugh. I mean, and let's not dwell on this because
It was like
we've
Jupiter's
talked about it
Legacy.
before.
But,
We've
but
talked
see,
about it before.
Jupiter's Legacy was actually pretty good, and it took a lot longer for that show to get canceled.
I
That's
feel
why
like
I don't know. There's had to have been some sort of vendetta out against this show.
yeah, I feel like worse shows have lasted longer is the understatement of the century.
Yeah.
I mean, especially here at Sudden But Inevitable, right? We've talked about Firefly, we've talked about Cowboy Bebop, we've talked about this Cowboy Bebop. I gotta say really quickly, hello to Smallville Sky in the chat. Thank you for being here. Just got off work, came in to watch with us. Thank you so much. Angela says, robbed. Yeah, it's one of those things. And Rosie recognizes Javier. He created The Middleman. He also worked on Lost and a lot of other very popular shows. He's got a great podcast called Children of Tendu that teaches you how to be a screenwriter and showrunner. Like, it's pretty cool. That's actually with Jose Molina of Firefly. Anyways, you guys, we are here, as we mentioned, to talk specifically about the finale of live action Cowboy Bebop with our friend, the Superfan, Phil. That finale, of course, is called Supernova Symphony. Now, we cannot talk about this episode without talking about the church scenes. And I feel like we should probably
just
do
go
that.
right ahead, huh?
I
Just
mean,
skip
we
right
should.
ahead.
We may as well because we're going to talk about the
Let's
whole
just all
episode.
go rewatch
And
Ballad of Fallen Angels from the original anime. And then
you're right, Josh. Bring that screen up. Let's stream that for the live audience. And then, no, but I mean seriously, like we don't need a synopsis. Everybody knows what we're here to do. Everybody who's watching episode 10 knows what happens in episode 10, and we'll get to all the important scenes, I promise. But for this episode, I think the church scenes cannot be overstated. They're important.
Oh, you mean that scene?
And they're just everything about this scene, right? Cannot be overstated, the importance of it. So, Phil, why don't you just give us your thoughts on the church scene? You can be as short-winded or as long-winded as you like, my friend.
They absolutely nailed it. I could not have asked for a better. Could not have asked for a better adaptation of the church fight from Ballad of Fallen Angels. They were nearly shot for shot and line for line with the dialogue in most cases as well.
And it was like,
Yes, Angelus, exactly. Choreography. Angelus in the chat says choreography was absolutely top notch.
yeah,
that like
and
rolling over his back thing. Oh,
Yeah.
yep.
Nah, just
and they managed to imbue tension in a scene that I know the outcome of, right? Like, I know Spike isn't going to die here. I know Jet's not going to die here. Like, I know Vicious probably will not die here. Like, there's a lot of stuff here where I'm like, I don't know. The first time I was watching it, to your point, I'm like, I have no idea how they're going to make this scene feel like it has the same stakes as the original scene, because I immediately recognize, I mean, that first overhead shot of Spike walking into the church, you're like, this is going to be exactly what I hope it's going to be. And
they hit Rain with the soundtrack. I mean, just
that song,
Yeah.
I talk a lot about Don't Bother None. Everybody
mhm.
talks a lot about Tank. We
Mhm.
we talk a lot about The Fate of the Three last week with Chris and Leslie from Measuring the Score podcast. But yeah, this Rain song, I mean, this is easily one of the most recognizable tracks from the original anime, specifically because of the church scene, right? But we don't, okay, we get every shot that was in the original, and we get it, but we get a remixed version of it, much as we have up to this point in the series, right? I gotta say,
Smallville had like a Leo moment. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I can't help myself. Like, I was so upset when Spike is in the bar and Jet is on the phone, and Jet's face just freezes in the middle of being on the phone. I was like, I know exactly what's
And-
happening,
and
all
talk
the
about-
hair on my body is standing up, and
Talk about some excellent reaction work from Mustafa Shakir in that shot.
mhm.
Just everything in his facial expression absolutely sold the entire
think-
emotion of the scene.
I think his acting throughout this whole episode was incredible. Just
Yeah.
with like, he was the best part of this. Between him and Faye, I think Faye did a really good job as well. I mean, everyone, honestly, this whole episode was just everyone was, it was their shining moment. You know, for Julia had her moment. Spike and Vicious had their moment. You know, like everyone had it. Even, and actually want to bring up, even Anna had her moment, and I want to bring up that Cam from Green Shirt Podcast had actually mentioned on Twitter earlier this week that Anna confessed to ratting out Spike
Mhm.
originally, but she didn't.
no.
She didn't actually do that, correct?
No. So what happened was, last week on the show, last time on Sun But Inevitable, there was a moment where I believe Leslie and maybe Josh were convinced
Oh.
that Anna had given Spike up, and Cameron had, I believe on Twitter, mentioned that he was pretty sure Julia gave him up, but we didn't know that until this episode. And Cameron went, "But you guys have seen it," and I said, "Yes," but what I meant to say was we didn't remember it yet, because we do find out in this episode that Anna did not break.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
that's why she carries a cane.
Mhm.
Right.
And just okay, since we're there, let's talk about the standoff. Gren, we have the shot. We have the shot of Gren from the intro, right?
Yeah,
Just-
And
no,
speaking of our friend Cameron from the Green Shirt Podcast, that was Cameron's cover shot when he
Yeah,
was here on Sunday
Yeah.
Inevitable. And just
And there's another character, like, they did such a good job with their spotlight in this scene as well. Like, even just that small line that Faye has, like, is this an open bar?
Oh,
you're
you're a fun
fun.
one, aren't you?
Just that one line, they crushed it, and like everyone in this episode crushed it. And sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
no. I just wanted to say, the first thing that happened when Jet and Faye went into the bar, into Anna's bar, they pulled their guns out and they say, "Put your guns down." And Gren immediately responds by taking his guns out after he's been told to put his guns away.
Yeah, no,
I
they
love
they
that.
pull guns, and it just immediately.
Well, the funny thing was, Anna was just trying to hand Spike a weapon,
Yep.
but it looked like she was, and when I watched it for the second time, I realized that she was actually like holding the gun out, like pointing at him.
Yeah.
And no wonder Faye and Jet came in just like, put the guns, because it looks like Anna
And
was
then-
about to shoot it.
Yeah.
Yep. And then but I gotta say, if they gave us the Faye and Gren whatever
Side story?
side story sitcom
Just give them
that-
an
Please.
episode together.
I mean, okay, in the anime, I don't, not to be that guy, but in the anime, they shared an apartment. That's the perfect setup for a sitcom. I would watch the hell out of that personally.
Oh my God.
Give
Or
me
even just
Faye and
them
Gren.
going on bounties, like
I-
because Faye just left and Gren doesn't really have much to do. So like
You know, if they want to help Faye go figure out her whole past thing, that'd be.
So
Yeah.
I got to point this out. Our friend Callie D in the chat made a comment in my voice. She said, also, that Jet's look in that interaction with Faye where she told him that she may have found her past and asks her if it can hold. She has slight taken aback look on her face and Jet's expression goes all soft. Then she made a comment in Ricky D's voice. The micro expression in that scene was so perfect. Then she made a comment in Josh's voice. Acting, man. Just perfect evolution, Callie. That shows that she knows this show, and I appreciate you being here in the chat. Our friend Rosie points it out too. The cast was well-rounded. I couldn't help myself. But yeah, just the tension in this scene. And again, we're all pretty sure that this is going to be a fun scene, right? We're like, okay, no one's going to probably die here. But they are all pointing guns at each other, and this is really fun. And how perfect that Gren would have 2 weapons, right? Because they're the one telling other people no weapons.
Yeah.
So, rules for thee and not for me. And I really, really love that Jet, his gun is like physically larger than everybody else's gun. Like it is this giant hand cannon sort of a gun. But yeah, so basically that scene segues directly into that, oh no, Jet's daughter. And I knew this was going to happen the moment that I saw that Jet had a daughter in the series, right? Like I knew it was coming. But we get this sort of, okay, here's the thing that I think is a little bit strange. The marketing for this series, I think, features a lot of shots from this scene where they walk out into this purple lit alleyway and they're having this fight. And it's like, why did they choose this episode specifically to pull a lot of marketing material from? Personally, I don't know. But beyond that, we do get this remixed again version of the carry that weight line from
Yup.
Faye, right? And it somehow, like, I know that it's forced, but it doesn't feel forced. Like, to me, that's just how Faye talks. And actually, that kind of brings up a complaint that I have about the complaints, which I know is sort of a thing we do here. But a lot of people have talked about, the dialogue is trying to be Firefly or too quippy, or it's trying to be this, that, or the other thing. And it's like, I really am just going to disagree with that, because Faye, to me, talks like somebody who is disconnected from the time that she's in. Like, she uses some slang that does fit and some slang that doesn't fit. And it sounds like she's trying to approximate the slang that she has heard. And the way that the rest of them talk is just based on the tropes of their characters, which is how they talked in the anime. So I don't know what people are complaining about. Like,
Faye has very much a "how do you do, fellow kids" kind of attitude when it comes to the slang. Because she was frozen, she has no idea what the people of the time talk like.
Nobody says balls
I love
except
that
Jesse.
scene.
That's what I thought. I was like, man,
Yeah,
has Faye just been hanging out with Jesse? Because
I
like,
love that scene. Go back and listen
Welcome
to
to the
our
ouch.
coverage of episode,
to the
what was that, 5, I think? No, episode 4, where people are getting turned into trees.
Yeah.
Go listen to that episode. It's a good episode. You know what? Just start at the start. Listen to the whole Sudden But Inevitable backlog. Why not? You got time. It's
Begin
gonna
of
there's a
take you
few
a week.
episodes there.
Yeah, it'll be a while. So Ricky D, as I am wont to do, I have been talking for 20 minutes straight. Is there anything that you feel like, since we're not going in chronological order, is there any scene or any particular thing that you feel like, oh, I want to be the one that gets to bring that up?
Nothing I can come up with at the moment. Nothing that we've gone past so far.
Perfect. So, Josh, you.
The very first scene with Vicious and Julia. He's just still covered in blood, and he's like, the
So
plan
how was
went
your day?
accordingly, just not the one that you and Mao made. And like his smile and stuff to her, and like he smashes that glass over. Like, first of all, Julia is one tough chick, because taking a glass to the head, I would
Like a
be out.
whiskey glass, a thick one.
Yeah, I would either be out or crying. So like, for her to just get up and then talk the shit that she does, I was like, man, ballsy and awesome. Like, I think that was kind of the moment you realize that Julia's about to stop putting up with people's shit and
Yeah.
really take charge, And
boy.
I like the whole interaction. I think this first
It
scene,
built
it's
well.
like, yeah, and
It
you
built
realize that
up
it's
well
going
to
to be
the end of the episode.
it's going to be different. I feel like I honestly thought, like, when you first watched it, I'm like, oh, this is going to be cool, but it's probably not going to be the same thing that we saw in the anime.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. Like, in the anime, Julia gets shot,
Yeah. And
on
so
that last episode.
our friend Rosie points out she is royally pissed. And I think
Yep.
I think that's the key there, is that in that scene, Julia is not frightened that Vicious has returned. She
Yeah,
is
she's like, damn it.
furious. And like, just
Scrambling to make a new plan.
yeah, and the gears are turning in her head. Yeah, and she's like, okay, what is the next option here? And she knows the next option, and I believe that's why she told Vicious where Spike is, because she goes, this is the best chance, right? Like, gotta
Mhm.
get, but it's there. We'll get into it. Anyways, this scene does have a very cool framing device with Vicious bottle of alcohol. It's got a hole in the center of his decanter, and Julia is sitting in the middle of that hole. She's the center of his world, and he's, he removes everything but her, and she just stays there and then puts her back. She's that missing piece, right? She's the one piece of this plan that he did not account for. She's the missing piece of his bottle, right? And yeah, just, I don't know, Ricky D specifically, better glass over the face here or better glass over the face in The Departed?
Ooh.
I'm not remembering it in The Departed.
What, are you kidding me? He orders the cranberry juice, and the other guy's like, "What's
Oh,
your
I'm
period?"
sorry. I thought you meant peering through the glass.
Oh,
No,
no.
No, I'm gonna go The Departed. The Departed
Yeah.
had more like visceral hatred in it, whereas when Vicious did this to Julia, it was more.
Spiteful.
It didn't
I don't
feel
know. I
as
feel like
good
that's
to
pretty
me.
hate. It's
Yeah,
pretty
it was
hateful to me.
hateful, and it was like domestic violence, which is
Childish.
not cool.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
male on male mobster
Yep.
violence is hilarious.
Very
So,
cool.
Yeah.
Acceptable.
Smoking in real life, not cool. Smoking in the movies, cool.
You asked me earlier if there's anything I wanted to point out, and I actually did notice something. And we were talking about the ratings earlier and this getting canceled so quickly. And, I always like to look at the top 10 shows that are on Netflix. And all the time, it's like new seasons of Netflix shows, new Netflix movies, maybe a new release or something. But right now, Shrek 1 and Shrek 2 are at the top of the Netflix top 10 list in the US, of course.
Now,
That's the only where I have access to it.
Point.
Wait, what are you watching? I have The
Point.
Last Kingdom and Pieces of Her.
Point. They are pulling a lot of stuff here at the end of the month. And so a lot of people are binging
that
through
makes sense.
stuff
That makes
that's going to
sense.
be going away.
Okay.
but to
So,
Ricky
case in
D's
point, the kids and I watched Despicable Me tonight because it's going away by the end of March. So
and there are some programs where if you put them on and then put your child in front of them, you have like 20 minutes to just not pay any attention to what your child is doing. Not that I would ever do that. I'm just saying, like, some parents might do that. But I feel what Ricky D is saying, because there are days where I go on there and I look through the top 10 trending on Netflix. I'm like, this is all crap. Like, I can look at this and know that it's crap. Like, it is designed to be crap. Like, this isn't me unnecessarily bashing on things, I don't think. I feel like this is me going, definitely middle of the road stuff is the most popular stuff, right? I don't think that's a hot take, right?
God, I hate that.
And that's not
I
a
mean,
hot take. That's just a
for
truth
God's sake.
of things, right?
Mark Wahlberg's Shooter is number 8.
What's that about? Yeah, so it's like
Well, I wonder.
can't, there's part of me that's like, you don't deserve Cowboy Bebop. Like
Yeah.
this is too good for you. Like this beyond you, you know. But then
Let
the other part of
Hulu
me
or
is like,
someone else pick it up.
well, the other part's like, yes, please make more so that I can have it because I deserve Cowboy Bebop. Like, and I want it. I love it, and please give me more of it, please. But it's an exercise in the human condition of holding two contradicting ideas in the heart at the same time. If you haven't watched Neon Genesis Evangelion recently, please go do so. I binged in like 3 weeks and it was bad for my mental health, but I'm feeling much better now. But yes, let's go to Phil. Phil, Josh has had a moment. Ricky has had a moment. Is there a scene or a thing that you feel like you'd like to be the first to talk about from this episode?
So the first thing that really hit after that initial vicious Julia scene was kind of the realization that episode 9 was all Spike's unconscious flashback after the fight with Pierrot in episode 8. And I thought that was absolutely fantastic framing, but we
Good
don't really
call.
get to see the framework within episode 9. We don't see the framing device until we see Gren in their ship coming in to rescue Spike. So, then though, so we get that whole bit, the whole Pierrot battle's over. He flashes back, remembers his past, comes back up. And when he wakes up, you see one of the live action version of one of the most iconic images of Spike from the series. It's just him wrapped in bandages. Like, all right, we're doing more of the anime shots. Exactly, Josh.
And before the end of this episode, we will also get Spike like just absolutely brutalized and all purple and bumpy, which again, direct shots from the anime. But yes, let us take a step. I don't know which direction this would be. We have to talk about the scene, which is again almost a direct pull, where Faye is watching the video of her younger self, and she goes, "Okay, I'm gonna do some. Okay, let's talk about this. If this was taking place now, I would hate this thing where they go, oh, let me just add information to this photograph that didn't exist before.
Enhance computer, zoom in and enhance.
Enhance.
Yeah, and
Enhance.
now with a series like this where it's already sci-fi and it's already the future, I can accept that, hey, maybe there's like upscaling AI photo prediction for the edge of your photo. Okay, fine. I'm fine with that. I really am fine with that. Also, as our friend Ricky D has so eloquently brought up many times, this series takes place in our solar system, giving us a sense of reality to it, but that also gives us a limited number of places we could live, right? So it's not completely out of the realm of possibility that a computer could figure out where that building was.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that.
We have, reverse image search already.
Yeah, the Google Lens thing, that's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So, but this is all just a setup for like 2 minutes of pure emotional gold from Daniela Pineda's Faye, because her drive to go find her past, right? I mean, it was there in the anime.
Yes.
But it was like, whatever, she's kind of manipulative. Here, it's like, oh, I just want her to be happy for once. Can she please catch a break? And this Faye is clearly different because she is like, hey, I think I have a lead on the only thing I've ever wanted to know. And the first thing Jet says to her with no hesitation is, cool, can that wait? And she like doesn't really reply. But because he has a daughter, he knows I have to just keep explaining. I can't wait for her answer. He explains to her, okay, it's because we got to go get Spike and this, that, and the other thing. And she swallows her excitement and her pride at the same time and says, let's go get Spike. And it's one of my favorite lines in the series, honestly.
And it's some of the best emotion we get from Danielle Pineda is in that sequence, because it's just everything she's worked for is right there.
Yeah.
You know,
And
she's this close to grabbing a hold of that thread, and
I think it's her eyes. Her eyes
Yeah.
are huge. Like Daniela Pineda's eyes are physically
Yeah.
ginormous. And the makeup, right, with the winged
That's
eyeliner and everything, it's like
perfect
Yeah.
for an adaptation of an anime.
very, very, and yes, it's, I mean, Faye in particular, but yeah, it's one of those very small touches that I'm like, why didn't other adaptations go subtle like that, right? Like, because if you look at this show, yes, there are 91% Dutch angles and heavily saturated colors, but like everything else about it is pretty, like, I don't know, I don't want to say basic. What's the word I'm looking for? It's like normal, like grounded. It's all very grounded. The reality of the thing feels real to me. It's an accomplishment in, I think, production design that makes it feel like these are the clothes they would wear. This is a realistic space for them to be inhabiting. Like none of it feels like fake, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Cheap. None of it feels
Yeah.
cheap to me.
Yeah.
Except
it
in moments
feels
where it's
earned.
supposed to look cheap, right? There
Yeah.
are definite moments where they go, okay, this would be funny if it was cheap, and they do that, and I'm fine with that. But I just, yeah, I love it. And our friend Angela says, for the record, literally nothing wrong with clear-cut changes to the story that isn't considered monumental. It happens quite a bit in Alita. Both still manage to pay some respect to the source material. And yeah, I gotta agree. It's one of those things like with a source material like this, where there is so much passion already associated with it, there's gonna be detractors no matter what, right? So you have to kind of just like pick your lane and stay dedicated to it. And I feel like there was just vision at the top of this thing that was perfectly executed, in my opinion. And maybe that's why people don't like it, is because I do like it.
Sounds about right.
It's
Look at
happened.
that shot. I just had to bring this up because it's just
It's
so
happened to me
good.
before.
Man, it's just so
It's so
good.
pretty.
It's also one of the brighter scenes.
Yeah. It actually
I think that might have been enhanced, maybe.
I think that's a production shot, because in the actual scene there's a lot bluer, mo blue.
Bluier, mo blue, mo better.
But
dabba dee, dabba die.
it was oh man. How about that for an audio drop? We
Yeah,
had some
now
good
it's in your
audio
head.
drops last week.
Now
Yeah,
it's in your head.
if you didn't listen to last week's episode with Chris and Leslie from Measuring the Score podcast, go check that out. There was some great drops in that episode, if I do say so myself.
They were pretty good for sure.
Yes, but I would like to open it up to live chat really quickly. If there's a scene that you folks would like us to discuss next, go ahead and throw it in the live chat. But I am going to ask Josh. Josh, do you have a scene in mind next?
I do, but I don't want to talk about it quite yet because it's like
Okay.
the most freaking like I don't even know how to describe it. Like set yourselves up to then be just brought down and
Well,
pain,
I mean,
lots of pain.
then let's jump back over to the bar scene really quickly. I recognize bottles. It made me happy.
Was there Kudo at the bar? I just need to know.
I did not see a bottle of the Kudo. I did, however, see a bottle of Hendrick's gin, very like front and center behind Gren. Like the whole time, I was like, "Hey, I drink that."
Slight digression. I hope you will forgive me. For the new show, Star Trek Picard, there is a promotional bar in LA called 10 Forward. And you can
We
go
just
there
lost Josh.
and drink themed drinks and, have a grand old time and meet cast members from the show and things like that. I wish and I wonder, did they do something like that with Anna's Bar? Because that space is gorgeous, first of all, but it looks like it could be a real establishment. I mean,
if they put that set together and didn't utilize it as like a cast party or something, then
It'd be a
Yeah.
shame.
or
and yes,
tours.
Callie, exactly. I thought we were past this.
The combination of Gren's sass and Faye's like naive playfulness, I think, is what would be so fun about watching them together in season 2, right? And I mean, it would probably be a bit of a trick to get their paths to cross again, but I'm sure that they could come up with that. Angela says the debate between Faye and Jet, the scene still hits hard because you completely understand where Jet is coming from, but I still 100% agree with Faye. Yeah, so our friend Angelus is talking about the scene where Faye says, "I will not carry that weight," and Jet's basically saying, "Look, if it's my daughter or Spike, that's not a question to me. That's a very easy decision to make, and the answer is give up Spike." That's a difficult thing, I think, for Faye because she has been abandoned by her parents, right? But she also feels that she's found this family now, so she's holding on to this family. She doesn't want it to break apart, because you could argue that she would go, "Oh, that's the right thing to do. I wish my parents had done that. I wish they had, done whatever it took to keep me around them." But
Now
I think
we
she
also
realizes
don't
that
have...
they tried to save her, right, by freezing her, and that's what's left her alone. So maybe that's why she's like, just because you think that's the right thing to do doesn't mean you're right. Sorry, Phil, go ahead.
I was just going to say we don't have quite the same depth yet to her background in the live action show that we got by the end of the anime.
Correct. But she has had at least a couple of what she probably considers to be close calls, right? Where she was like, I was this close to finding out, and then it was all torn away again.
Yeah.
So it is her, the weight that her character is carrying regardless. So I think it's just, that scene really does hit hard, and the math, we'll just say, the math of it was, that was rough. But I gotta say, I was in a similar way to when I was surprised that Vicious had survived getting his head cut off somehow, because I forgot about the hollow mask. Same thing here. I forgot that Vicious just got shot in the head and didn't die. I was like, what? Oh, right.
Yeah.
Hollows again. Like, are you serious? I actually forgot
Loves that
since the
hollow
last time that
technology.
happened.
So
Like-
my initial reaction was, holy shit, he's got Pierrot's shield tech. Just because picking back up, I was still on that whole in the aftermath of the Pierrot fight.
He just loves his hollow knowledge.
No. He just and that was a phenomenal set of double crosses back and forth there. I mean,
well, and the look on Vicious' face when all of his dudes get killed, and then a bullet gets fired at him, and he just goes, well, it's like, that was gonna happen. But he's so smirky and snarky, and it's like, this, if our friend Sincera were here, I would say, is this your Vicious? Because I have a feeling that it is. This is this Vicious is nothing to lose, do not care, full on Kubrick stare, which is a term I learned from my friend Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. There's a lot of, psycho smiling in this episode with his teeth pressed together, and there's a lot of like hair hanging in front of my face, sort of a thing. And I gotta be honest, I usually hate watching people fight with a katana because it always looks, I don't know what the word is, it's cheesy or something.
Lame.
Right? Usually it somehow ends up looking like there's no weight to the katana. I think the katana, is my problem, is it looks like it's just like, you can tell it's a prop sword, right? It's too light. But I don't feel like I have that issue in this episode. I feel like we really do get the heft of Vicious sword at last episode too, when he rested it on Anna's thigh.
not to mention the audible sharpness.
Oh man, which is just so anime, right? I mean, that's how you know it's a sword.
If it doesn't go shing every like 2 seconds, how do you know there's a sword in play?
And speaking of anime, how great was that shot where Jet was waiting for the people to go open the trunk for Spike?
Oh my god!
All the syndicate members, and they did that double shot
The
right next to each
screen.
other. Yeah, it kind of looked comic booky, and
Mhm.
I'm
You
really
had the
excited
panels.
for that. I was going into that going, okay, so Jet is mad at Spike, but Jet doesn't have a chance without Spike. Because he's obviously going to get double crossed. Jet's going to get double crossed here. So he needs somebody on his side. So what is he going to do with Spike to get through this?
He's
So
going to use the best weapon at his disposal, which, as he has learned, is a former syndicate assassin.
But yeah, I felt a lot of anticipation going into that. That was a lot of fun.
Well, speaking of the camera work there, I really love the transition between Julia's flipped over car full of henchmen and the fender of Jet's vehicle, right? It's like the inverted shape of that car matches the regular shape of Jet's car. So the way they intercut between those two things was masterful. And they did a similar thing with the trunks, right? The trunk shot where they opened one and then they cut to the trunk of the other or the hood of the other one. And it was
It was a lot like the champagne shot from when they went to Pound Town.
And
Exactly.
it reminded me of like going to like
one. Everybody gets one.
classic art. Hokusai's the Great Wave. You've got the like fractal wave curling over, but if you flip the piece, you see that entire wave shape mirrored underneath it.
in the same, and it's there is so much about the visuals that are so deeply anime, but again, I feel like it's because the original anime was designed to look like it was real, like it was designed to look like a live action series, right? Except for the action.
Can we talk about that car crash for a second?
Let's do it.
Holy crap. That
about
was
visual.
I especially like the lady that's like, oh, you love him? I will do anything for love. It's just
all right. Here we go.
jokes the guy out.
We got.
And then
I got a
for
little
love.
bit of a flashback to the Dark Knight. It's like, you're lucky. He's not.
Oh,
Who? Your driver.
your driver.
Well, and
Yeah.
I more than just that she was a huge fan of love. Julia manipulated her into thinking she was going to die. I mean, now to be fair, Julia was probably right. Like,
Yeah.
she goes, "You know that Vicious knows that that he got cheated on, right? And he's gonna kill you for that." So she goes, "Oh, that's probably true." So it is, but it is the beginning. Well, maybe not the beginning, but it is another one of those little moments where we are reminded, hey, this Julia, not the Julia that we are used to. I would like to ask you guys, we were reminded earlier in the series when Vicious was falling in love with Julia, or Julia, as he calls her, and we find out that she is Russian by birth. Her mother tongue is Russian. And what do we think that means? Is there supposed to be some sort of tie-in to another Russian character, or is that just like we're going to add this to her backstory for no reason, or is there some sort of crime reason to do that, or do you guys think it's just flavor?
Honestly, without getting into a second season, I'd say just flavor.
Yeah.
Now, maybe building something that they could come back to if they wanted to elaborate on her backstory.
Well, I don't think it was as much of a excuse me, one of those things like Jet's daughter, for instance.
Yeah.
Like she came in at the beginning and you're like, "Oh, Jet has a daughter? That's weird, but okay." But in the end, his daughter becomes a huge plot device. I don't think Julia's Russian backstory would have become that big of a plot device.
No, not nearly to the same extent. But I mean, they could have drawn on her on potential connections that she might have off of her own.
Sure.
There's
So let me ask
like
you guys
syndicate
this.
connections that she creates through the Russians or whatever.
Do you remember, if you remember back to the anime, and I'm not using the anime to like judge this, I'm just saying we know that this is remixed source material, right? Do you remember in the anime
Remix.
when Julia and Faye met each other?
Mm-hmm.
And they have this very brief, like, hey, let's girl power for like 8 minutes. Like, you know what? I can see that you're running from something, and I identify with that. So, girl, let's go. And they get in the car together. It's very cool. They drive fast. It's just like you can feel the wind in the animation. It's very impressive. Do you guys remember the character of the mink? The Iron Mink? Do you remember
yeah.
his accent? So, is it possible that the Iron Mink and Whitney and Faye and Julia could have like crossed paths in some way in the next season, in season
yeah.
2, where he would be like, Julia, you have been here the whole time. We've been looking for you. And she's like, ugh, maybe there could be some sort of connection there. And then Faye is like, I'm sorry, what? How do you two know each other? And
See,
then
How
now-
do you two know each
you
other?
know,
Now-
yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah.
Now I just want a spin-off show with all of them plus Gren.
Yes.
oh yeah. I mean,
Like a team of those 5,
okay, I'm gonna go ahead and say it right now.
Uh,
I think Ed was perfectly translated.
Yes.
Let's talk
Yes.
about Radical
Yes.
Edward. I
Yes.
feel like we have to talk about this because Radical Edward was one of those points. I mean, we talked about it in season 2, you guys. We said this is going to be divisive, and whoever they pick is going to need to be thick-skinned and able to do a lot of weird physicality and this, that, and the other thing. Okay, let's start with Josh. Josh, what did you think of the one scene that we get with Ed in this series?
Well, first of all, Eden Perkins did a great job
Yes, they did.
playing Ed.
Yes,
And
they
they
did.
were just, I mean, it was everything that I could have hoped and dreamed they would be. Like when Ed first pops in, and like when Spike falls down and then sees Ed, and they're just like screaming at him, and he's like, oh my god, no,
Spike
please
Spiegel.
stop it. And he's trying to like denounce his name there and stuff, which kind of in season 2 I feel like he probably would have gone by a different name. But yeah, I loved Ed and everything that that Eden had. It's funny, Eden, you just call her Ed, call him Ed,
Eden,
like,
short
why
for
not?
Ed.
I just everything, the
LED.
goggles, the whole hand
The
thing,
flailing.
and oh man,
Yeah,
it's a good thing
so-
it's the season finale. We need a break, Callie.
No, but here's the thing. This is 100% the cogent point, right?
Yeah. Oh, and that's
yes.
Excuse me.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
yes, this was. People complained so much about this character. They went, "They're so cringe. I can't believe the cringe on the Ed character." And it's like, okay, first of all, what you're referring to is the fisheye lens. The fisheye lens
Yeah.
is making you feel cringy, and you need to recognize that it's an editing trick designed to actually do that.
Yes,
But
I mean
beyond
you're getting the effect of everything that Spike's been through
Right.
in the
He's-
last however many hours.
his perception is distorted. Everything is awful to him,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Everything's
like
gonna
the opposite of the Lego
sound
song.
loud. Everything's
Yeah.
gonna be grating. Everything's gonna be painful.
But to Callie D's perfectly cogent point, Ed mostly annoyed me because Ed reminded me of me when I was a kid. The enthusiasm, the unbridled, earnest energy of like, I confidently know that what I looked up must be correct because I looked it up. So even if you're the person and you say that's not correct, I know that I'm right because I am a kid and that's how kids are. And they have this confident, incorrect, awkward, weird, fun energy. And Eden perfectly captured that as Radical Edward. And I have to assume that the very next scene after this, the first scene of season 2, is Spike making his prairie oyster, right? Because he's trying to just get rid of this pain. Like it.
I'm gonna
has to.
take a complete left turn here. I was watching Peacemaker yesterday, and
Me too.
did he make a prairie oyster in that episode?
So
Do you know
that
which
I'm
one
not-
I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about, and I don't know if that was a prairie oyster so much as it was just actually he may
Hangover
have,
cure.
but it
Yeah.
was yeah,
Well,
it
but
was
he
just
like
a hangover
put stuff
cure.
in it. He like
He
put-
did. I think it was a prairie oyster, but it is specifically. I think you're supposed to make it whatever the alcoholic part of that is. I think is supposed to have been what you were drunk on the night prior. I'm
Okay.
not an
Okay.
alcoholic. Don't take my word for it.
I don't
Ricky
really
D,
know.
go
I don't-
ahead.
Yeah, I had some thoughts about Ed.
Please.
First time I finished this episode, I put into my notes, after about 2 minutes of Ed, I think I've had enough, honestly. But I've been going
Oh.
back and I've been thinking about it, and I like what Callie said. Uh, a character is supposed to be annoying. My issue is, while I loved Ed in the anime, I think the translation to live action would be really difficult, and it would turn a lot of people off just because the anime version was a character, and this is like a real person acting in these outlandish ways.
You
Uh,
mean like a real person being a character?
yeah. Uh,
But
It's just, I don't think it would translate super well to live action the way
Now-
it translated so well to anime.
I don't disagree with you, but I
I don't
honestly
think they would have been as over the top. I'm sorry.
No. I truly, honestly believe that it was the fisheye lens. Because if you go back and watch that scene and you're looking at the scenes that are not shot in fisheye, where it's kind of like it's almost Ed's perspective and then Spike's perspective, the scenes
Yeah.
where it's not shot in fisheye, it's just like this is just a loud little person. Like this is
But
not this doesn't
feel like-
cringe, this doesn't hurt the same way that the fisheye does.
Yeah.
I feel like this last scene was also really over the top, like because it was Ed's introduction, and so they
Yes.
had to be over the top, right? I mean, there were plenty of scenes in the anime where Ed was just sitting there on the computer, and there would have been plenty of scenes in the live action where Ed was just talking normal, like Ed speak, Fei, blah blah blah, and sitting on the computer. I don't
Smoke, Fei.
I don't think Ed
Yeah.
would have been, or should I say, I don't think Ed will be as cringy in the second season
Agreed.
because they just will most likely calm him down. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So-
Yes.
Yeah,
But less-
I mean, things are
less-
definitely going to be dialed up a little bit for the character introduction.
Well,
Right.
And beyond that, it's like it's the end of the season, right? So there
Mhm.
needs to be the cliffhanger moment.
Yeah,
Now,
let's get our plot hook.
lest I be accused of not giving voice to our friend Sean in the live chat, he says, I'm with Ricky. Some characters don't translate well, like a real life Master Roshi would be hard to do. I agree with you that a real life Master Roshi would be hard to do, but I don't think there are characters that don't translate well. I think that there are poor executions, which again, I don't think this is. Now, Master Roshi would be hard to do because he's basically just a pervert. And there's not a lot of space for that on screen right now. So
There's not really a lot
Or
of room for
anywhere.
interpretation with the.
yeah, there's no like, but why, right? Like, really delve into why Master Roshi likes to look at porn. But our friend Callie says they would absolutely have to either tone Ed down for season 2 or make Ein soften Ed a little. By going by what they've done so far, I believe they would have made it work. And I think that that would be the key. I think that's a good point because the Ed and Ein combination is what we need, right? So to Ricky's point and to maybe Sean's point, if the Ed character feels cringy or annoying, what if you paired that energy with the Ein energy, which is just adorable, fluffy, and corgi shaped, right? I mean, that's kind of the math of the original series. So I am personally not willing to pass judgment on this entire character or this performance based on one
Well
scene.
said. Yeah.
I know that we only have one scene, but I'm not willing to count that as conclusive personally.
Yeah.
Can I
and
ask, how
No.
did Ed find
I have to
Ein?
say
I'm
really
sorry.
quickly, I'll let you repeat that. Ricky D just said "well said" to me, and I think that's the first time he's ever said that to me.
No,
possibly
I
in
always
my
admit
life.
when you have a good
I'm
point.
sorry. I thank you, Ricky. I'm sorry, Josh. Go ahead. I couldn't help.
You know what we forgot to do? We forgot to bring up that that review. We'll have to do that later.
We can bring it up later. If you want, we
Okay.
can talk about it literally at any point. But I thank
no.
you for reminding me.
I did want to ask, like, how did Ed and Ein come to be?
Okay.
Because,
So
like, first of all, Jet was like alone on the ship and leaving. So was Ed in the ship when Jet got in there and he was like, "You need to get out"? Like, could you imagine Jet in that state of mind, walking onto a ship and seeing Ed in there?
oh man,
I could almost guarantee that that's
think-
probably what happened.
well, but I think that's why they didn't introduce Ed to Jet first. They had Ed go to Spike because they
Yeah.
were like, Jet needs
We've
to
already
be,
hit the emotional beats we need to with Jet.
right.
We
And
need to not,
The
know.
last
Or
thing
did
Jet
Ed just take Iron?
Well,
They
no,
just
no,
go
oh,
in
no,
there
no.
and they're like,
Or did
they left Ein behind a couple of
Yeah.
episodes ago because of the
before
video.
or going to find Pierrot?
Yeah, so Ed
oh, that's wrong. Okay.
Yeah,
probably tracked down Ein and used Ein
and used
to
Nine to
find
find
Spike.
Spike.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So because we know that Ed is a hacker, right? And we know
Yeah.
and
that
and
Ein
Ein's a data dog.
shoots video from its eyes. So, I mean, it's how freaking cool though
Exactly,
is it that
Rosie.
every question we come up with, we're like, oh, it's clearly this because they already wrote that. They already accounted for all of our questions, you guys. Like, this one season is pretty freaking tight of plot and television and all of this stuff. Like, it just is freaking tight. And yes,
And using the source material,
Yes.
like making it that tight, but also using as much source material and shot for shot source material that they did
yeah.
is incredible. Like they put a lot of love into this show.
And speaking of a lot of love, I do have to admit, Ricky is 100% right. Anytime that he feels a good point has been made, he does point it out. Ricky is potentially the most honest debater on the screen normally. Phil is here tonight, so that doesn't apply, but usually I would say...
I learned from Ricky.
Oh, that's bad. But Ricky's dedication to overall quality, I think, really makes him a voice that, if not a voice you can trust, at least a voice that you can hear.
Trust
So-
to doubt myself.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't go that far. But our friend Rosie says, I thought Ein was left behind and had found him. Yes, I believe we all agree with that. And that was one of those things where when it happened, I feel like we all blocked it out, right? Because we remember that they left Ein behind, but we're all like, well, that can't be what happened because no one would do that. So,
And that was almost 2 whole episodes ago.
yeah. Oh, man. Talk about the length of time between episodes, which we have mentioned before. This show should have been a weekly release. If I had 7 days between episodes to browbeat my friends into watching this freaking television show, I swear I would have done so. I mean, I think this podcast is enough proof in and of itself that I would have done that. And it's I mean, part of me is strangely happy, right? Because I'm like, we get this one additional perfect little single season gem of a television show in much the way that Firefly fans did, right? But at what cost? I ask you. I mean, we could have had so much. I'm actually feeling sad now, you guys. Let's talk about Cowboy Bebop so that I can stop feeling sad.
I would have loved to see the Ed finding their father scenario. And I think that would have been like a season 3 kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, because obviously season 2 would have been Jet, Spike, and Faye all getting back together,
Oh,
finding
and
Faye's family, and then season 3 would have been going for Ed's family, and then, you know.
And one of our few shots on Earth in this series showed the meteors falling down like rain, just like in the episode where Ed is looking for their father. And I just, it was, I can't, yeah. I want so much more from this. But I feel like we got so much to be grateful for, and I really am happy that we did get what we got. And
I think we got more than we ever should have expected
100%
from a
Agreed.
Cowboy Bebop adaptation.
I mean, considering some of the other adaptations, not just anime, but like video game adaptations and comic
books
book
to movies,
adaptations,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
like there's a lot of good things out there, but there's a lot of shit out there. And this was really a really good and well put together adaptation.
That's a brilliant point, Josh. Let's live chat.
What?
What's-
Wait, say that again.
Live chat. What's the worst
No, go back a
adaptation-
little bit longer, a little bit back.
That's a brilliant point, Josh.
Holy
Live
shit.
chat. What's the worst adaptation of a thing you've ever seen?
Last Airbender.
Oh, man. And I can't speak on that because I haven't seen either half. But I know there are a lot of people that would agree with that take. Josh, what do you have?
Oh man, let me probably Tomb Raider.
That was yeah.
The
I mean-
the Jolie or the Alicia Vikander.
Like,
The
what is there
Jolie,
to
I mean,
adapt?
yeah, I get that's it. That's what it is. It's like why there was no
The
reason for this.
the Jolie version gave us very early Daniel
mean,
Craig.
Mm.
I guess I don't know. I'd go to comic book stuff. I'd go Fantastic Four. I'd go Catwoman.
Mm.
I would go anything along those lines.
Here's the thing.
Aragon.
The thing about
Daredevil with Ben
Oh,
Affleck.
man.
Like,
Aragon like killed the book series too, didn't it?
No,
oh,
Did,
No.
like- oh, okay.
no.
I'm glad
they
that
actually ended up doing 4 books out of that instead of
Oh, wow.
3 because the third book got so long his editors made him split it into 2.
Oh, very cool. I remember reading the first book and going, "This would make an excellent movie."
The Hobbit. The
And they
whole
made a
Hobbit
movie.
series was not the
yeah.
best live action adaptation
Oh,
either.
okay. I was gonna say the animated one was great.
Yeah,
The animated one.
we do not
grew up
mock
on
the
that, but,
Bakshi
like-
animated Hobbit. man.
No. But that extra one. 'cause-
Sean, excellent point. Super Mario Brothers.
You bite your tongue, Sean. That's like one of my favorite movies because it's
Okay.
so bad. Like,
Okay.
I love that movie.
Yeah,
No,
but that
similar
hits
thing.
so bad it's good territory.
And they
That's
but
what
here's
I'm
the
saying,
thing,
yeah.
you guys. They took a frigging swing with Super Mario Brothers, right? They went, okay, this is never gonna work. Let's just do whatever. Like
Have you ever seen like the production hell that they went through with that
Oh, it
movie?
was so bad.
I haven't.
So bad.
Let me just.
Those directors were garbage.
Sean seems very riled up in the chat. I just want to point
They
out
were.
that
They were the whole time.
one
No
of
joke.
Sean's favorite movies is Waterworld. So take everything that he says with an ocean-sized grain of salt. Just throwing it out there. I couldn't help myself, Sean. You know I respect you. I
Waterworld. I mean,
think
I
I
like
should
Costner
take-
and all that.
I think I should take this opportunity to tell folks, if you haven't recently, please go check out Cheap Seat Reviews, the podcast that reviews the Hollywood film industry for the greater good. That is where our friend Sean in the live chat hails from. He and his friends Sam and Andrew, excuse me, he and his friends Sam and Andrew cover streaming movies weekly. They are pushing 400 episodes, you guys. That is, first of all, insane. Like, I'm 90%
Holy shit, Sean,
sure.
Well done.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Ricky D and Josh will leave me way before we hit 400 episodes. And
I don't know, man.
and Sean is one of the first independent podcasting friends that we made here at Sudden But Inevitable.
Indeed,
We, as
indeed.
we have spoken about before, we have a group of friends that make shows together. But Sean is one of the first real people outside of our group of friends that we met that had their own podcast, and he graciously shared some of his audience with us. He's allowed everyone here to be on his show, and we have had nothing but fun with the Cheap Seat Review guys. And we've had Sean here multiple times, and we will be having Sean back. And Ricky,
I was wondering when you were gonna cash in that advertising check.
Yeah, I wanted to pop in with some of the bad movie adaptation
Oh,
media
yes.
changes.
Yes, go Ricky.
One of which, I don't know if anybody's going to feel this strongly as me, maybe Phil, the Dark Tower movie. What a disaster.
Oh,
Okay.
I never even watched
I
it.
loved the casting.
Hmm.
Idris Elba as Roland and Matthew McConaughey as the Man in Black. Holy shit! But they were also trying to take 8 books and distill it down.
Like 4,000 pages.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean
But-
that
I love the Dark Tower books, though.
yeah.
Those
No,
are one of the
it-
few
it
Stephen
needed
King
to
books that I'll
be-
still
Needed
fight
to be a
for.
series. It needed to be a series, not a single film.
I
Now,
was
I
wondering
have-
about that because the Dark Tower was so long.
It's
How could
so
they-
good.
And
It's so
but how could
good.
they have done one movie? Like,
You
Cash
can't.
grab.
I mean, yeah.
So I
you could realistically get the events of the Gunslinger and maybe parts of the Drawing of the Three into one movie.
Is that 2 books?
Yeah,
Yeah,
first
okay.
2 books.
So I will cop
They
to the
got
fact-
longer as they went on.
I will cop to the fact that I have never read the Dark Tower series. I have a question because I have heard some stuff about it. I've not like read an article or anything, but I have heard it spoken of. I was the other day thinking like, man, space cowboys are so freaking cool. And then I went, has anybody done Time Cowboys? And then I went, oh wait, is that Dark Tower? But I don't know
No.
because I haven't read it. So is it?
No, so Dark Tower is basically descendants of King Arthur, who in the one in particular uses a pair of revolvers that were forged from the metal from Excalibur. The
Okay,
guns
that's
were made
cool.
from
Yeah,
Excalibur.
and he got his hands cut off at the
by
end
a
of the
fucking
second book.
lobster thing.
The super gunslinger got his hands cut off.
Okay.
Holy crap!
He gets several fingers maimed or bitten off completely. Yes.
Okay.
But then he switches from his dual gun style to a single, and he starts training other people to follow
Mhm.
alongside him.
So I can dig that, but going back to my original comment, can we please make a Time Cowboys series? Because I think that's the next big thing. Like, I love Space Cowboys, right?
I
But
bet you weren't
Space
ready for that.
Cowboys cannot last more than one season on television for some reason. So I think the key is Time Cowboys. You guys, I think there's something there. I'm not even joking.
And if I
So-
can
Isn't
throw out
Daniel
one
Craig
more
in a movie
thing,
like that?
Go ahead, Ricky.
anything Yui Bowl has made,
Ah.
he makes bad video games into awful movies.
Oh god, Blood Rain.
Now,
Blood
now,
Rain.
hey,
That was a movie.
hey, the first Blood Rain game was a lot of fun. And that's where I'll leave that.
All right.
So let's get back to Cowboy Bebop, you guys. I feel like this has been a bit of a digression here.
I've enjoyed
Josh, did you have another terrible adaptation that you wanted to mention? Okay. So yeah, I feel like most of the complaints for this show should just go check those things out. Like, go watch Netflix's Death Note. Go watch Avatar: The Last Airbender live action.
Don't
watch,
look up Uwe Boll.
Go
No.
watch Yui Bowl's movies. Like, seriously, if you think this is bad, go watch actual crap and see how good this really is. I
Yeah.
implore you, please, if there's a thing I could make you do, it would be this thing.
Perspective.
Seriously, perspective is so important. Oh, Rosie, you guys, add this to the list. Time Ninjas. Now, obviously, we
Josh,
can't
write that one down.
we can't do Time Ninjas versus Time Cowboys because that's too obvious. But we
Why
could do
not?
a group
You
of
can do
Time
anything you
Cowboys
want in cinema.
that has a. All right, back to
Good
the
yes
drawing
and
board.
Josh.
Yep, I guess. The production team of Bailey and Matson hasn't yet come up with a movie, but we don't know why. So this episode, you guys, we have all of the emotional stuff going on with Faye. She knows that she has a chance to go find her family. Jet has a chance to lose his family here. Spike has a chance to lose his family here. Both halves of his family, everyone he's ever known, in one fell swoop.
Which
Julia
I think really
is
hit
losing
home for him
people.
during that standoff, by the way.
He and
When
you could see it on his
literally
face.
everyone he cares about is pointing guns at each other.
Mhm. And there was a desperation when he asked them to please not shoot each other. It was
Yeah.
like, everybody is with me. Like, just everybody calm down. It's okay. Please, let's not all die. Right. Like, so everybody is parting ways here. This is a movie thing. The parting of the ways, the breaking of the
The breaking of the fellowship. I
Exactly.
have that in my notes.
So it's So it's just like a
Nerds.
moment of setup from the family
breaking
torn
of
asunder,
the fellowship.
right?
Right fucking there.
it's the show's continued reliance on tropes without using them as a crutch, right? The
Mhm.
show knows that its DNA comes from tropes, and it accepts that, and it's fully willing to swim in those waters masterfully, as I might add. But yeah, if there's anything that you guys feel like we have to talk about from this episode before we get to our weekly segments for the last time for this series, let's start going around the screen now. Josh, I'm going to start with you because I've known you the longest.
I don't have much actually. I feel like we covered everything. I really wanted to talk about Ed, but we got into that obviously. Yes, I did, Callie. I did just call other people nerds. Nerds are allowed to do that.
It's true. Will Wheaton on his Star Trek after show called The Ready Room literally starts every episode with "Hey nerds," and it's like, you know, the wrong audience might not appreciate that, man, but it's a Star Trek show, so he's fine.
The actual nerdy audience.
Yeah.
Hey,
It's
I don't
fine.
like that.
If
just,
Wesley Crusher cannot call other people a nerd,
Right.
then no one can.
If
I know what I wanted to bring
has
up.
no one
I'm
earned
sorry.
it? Go ahead, Josh. Sorry.
Because I can't go one single episode without doing it, but did anybody else get the Star Wars vibes, the episode 3 vibes, the how about my new empire vibes with Julia and Vicious?
I got
I
more
got-
of a "you were my brother" Anakin vibe.
Yeah, a
From
little.
Sure, I could take that too, whatever. But I watched that scene 4 times because I watched.
Josh doesn't want to be out Star Wars did.
No, like that's very fair, but like I feel like that was the one that got me the most because I was like, oh my god, did Julia just turn into Vader?
I
Mm.
had a brief moment where I knew that the slash fic writers were going to be going absolutely wild.
Okay.
Because there is a line that Vicious delivers in the church as Spike is tied to a column.
Uh-oh.
And Vicious says, "Ever since I learned you were alive, all I could think of was putting you in that empty hole." And I just
In my soul, Phil, the empty hole in my soul, it's shaped like a brother that I never had growing up. Yes, but you're not wrong.
no, he literally meant the crypt with his name on it. But
Yes. Layers like nachos.
but yeah, no, I actually have it written down with like, "Go slash fic writers, go."
Oh, seriously. Yeah, that's 100%. Now, our friend Angelus does bring up an excellent moment, unless it's already been mentioned, which I promise you it hasn't. Who else lost their marbles when Faye turned up in the jump ship, guns blazing? Oh, yeah.
I forgot about it, like because this is the second time watching, but I totally forgot. I was like, how did they get out of this? Oh,
it also made me kind of sad because we get so many fun scenes throughout the series with both the swordfish and the red tail, but we never see the hammerhead. We never see Jet's personal zip craft because he's always just flying around in the Bebop itself.
Now, I assume that in season 2, since Jet is now working alone, he would set the Bebop adrift as bait and use the hammerhead in a very cool surprise attack maneuver that we'll never get to see, but I'm not bitter about it. But that is an excellent point, Phil. Now, I gotta say, this is the physical version of Faye swallowing her pride and her knowledge and saying, "Let's go get Spike." Right?
Yeah.
This is her going, I already told him I don't agree, but you know what? The right thing to do is to keep your family together. And if keeping your family together means just emptying yards and yards of ammunition belts through rotating cannons at syndicate assassins through the wall of a brick church, then that's what that means, and you got to do it. And oh my God, is that one of my favorite scenes in the entire freaking series? Are you kidding me?
And Sinacera got here just in time.
Oh, Steve, I'm so happy that you're here to
Yay.
share this with us. We postulated earlier that this episode might be your favorite Vicious episode for reasons, etc. But right now we're talking about Faye showing up in the red tail, guns a-blazing,
With the
screaming,
thermal
laughing
cans.
maniacally. I mean, seriously, the moment that she's looking through these walls, just wasting people left and right, and you're like, every time the camera cuts, you're going, oh, she's about to run out of ammo. Nope. It's just that she's about to follow the next set of guys down the next set of pews and waste them all. And
I
It
love the
was-
infrared predator stuff going on there too.
It was such an an unnecessarily long sequence
Yeah.
of her just tearing through those guys, and I loved it.
and there was a firefight.
It was just one guy with 6 guns.
So good. And I mean, up to this point, yes, we've despised Vicious, right? He's been despisable. He's the beneficiary of nepotism. He's daddy's perfect little syndicate angel. But in this moment, he becomes evil, right? We need him dead. Like, I want Vicious dead in this scene, much the way I did in the anime. I just you put a child in the scene anywhere, and then you make that child's parent look at them while you tell them you're going to kill them both. Like, I'm done with this character. Kill this character. I am no longer have any sort of sympathy for him, which I think is a well-crafted character, because up to this point I'm like, yeah, Vicious is a dick, but like he's had really difficult, like, circumstances and expectations and all this kind of stuff. But it's kind of understandable if you were crazy and your wife cheated on you and you might do this thing. But now it's like, no, I'm done with this guy. I want him gone. Let's kill him. And of course, I don't quite get my moment of satisfaction, because Julia decides, I'm going to make you live through the fear that I lived through every day, wondering, is this the day that he kills me for no reason or for a stupid reason? Or, is this my last day alive? I'm going to make him live through that. And that, to me, is what makes this version of Julia so much better. And this version of Vicious, I don't know if it's better, but I still love this version of Vicious. Yeah, I really do. What else do you guys have, Josh? I know that was your first one. Ricky, what have you got?
Yeah, I wanted to see, did anybody else notice when Spike took a bullet in the back for Kimmy?
Yes.
Yup.
That, I really loved that scene, because, I mean, Spike he already has his relationship set with Jet. He knows their family. He knows he loves him. But Jet has been going back and forth this entire episode going, do I trust Spike? Can I have Spike on my ship? Who is this guy that I think I know? And that moment when Spike is carrying Kimmy and he turns around and just takes a bullet to the back without even really flinching, I think that really solidified him and Jet having that brotherly, that partnership relationship again.
Yeah.
After that, Jet still tells him, like, sorry, dude.
If I see you, I'll kill you.
Yeah, like, I'm still done with you. But it's
but he gets the knife twisting of Kimmy calling Chalmers daddy.
right. And
in between those two events.
Right.
And
he doesn't kill Spike, to be, I guess 100% fair. He's not like, no, I'm still going to kill you. He goes, okay, now at least I owe you that, right? I at least appreciate that enough to not kill you for it. And
I think Spike would end up saving Jet again. It'd be Spike and Ed coming in to save Jet from something, and then Jet would be like, "Ah, damn it, you!"
But Ricky's right. He totally beasted it. He was just like, "Oh, dang," and then just kept going. It was very satisfying.
He's like, he just made a little grunt. He's like, "I'm good."
Yes, and Rosie said, I thought he was evil when he killed his dad, and our friend Angelus points out those were some effed up parental relationships. So it is fair. I feel like Vicious, like we've said, he comes into the Vicious that we know in this episode, but doesn't get to stay there for very long. Ricky D, did you have any other scenes before we get to our segments for the week that you would like to speak on?
I think I am good to go.
My friend Phil, the Cowboy Bebop superfan, have you got anything you'd like to cover before we get to this week's segments?
I had hang on.
I would like to cover that review.
Oh yes, we'll do that first before we get there.
We get the bit of Vicious also bandaged, and very much mirroring the bandages Spike was wearing earlier. I loved that. But probably like back to the whole recreation of the Ballad of Fallen Angels fight sequence. I loved the sword going through and splitting the chair, and it's like, hey, look, suddenly this chair has become Tonfa.
Yeah.
I was a little disappointed that he tossed one aside and just fought with one plus the open hand instead of the pair of them. But that's just like the Soul Calibur geek in me.
That was like a complaint of mine, because I was like, the sword just cut through that chair, and you're gonna pick up the.
He's
just not gonna deflect.
Come come on, man. Ricky D, the Tonfa master, is trying to illustrate to you exactly how that works. I think he was pretty accurate.
Yep.
It was just a fun excuse to let John Cho play with a tonfa, but
Yeah, but it
I
is.
shall bite my tongue.
It was. I did love the fight. It has that sort of matrix, sort of equilibrium, sort of just.
It's very
the gun
John
versus
Woo.
sword. Yeah, John
It's
Woo.
very
exactly.
John Woo.
Yeah,
Which I mean, the anime always was.
Right.
The
Trigger
anime
guard
always
as
was
your-
the doves flying.
Well, and
It's-
I guess it's not this episode, but the other scene that we got where Vicious takes off the hollow mask felt very
Yeah.
John Woo to me, and
Yeah.
I gotta say those are excellent scenes. Have you got anything else that you would like to bring up, my friend?
I think that's about it for me. Other than like, I was sitting here thinking, where is the swordfish right now too? Because it's still at Earthland, theoretically.
It could be in
Or
the Bebop.
Gren might have towed it, or I mean,
Gren may have towed it. There's and that's actually
We'll
a
find
good
out in
point. They
season
didn't-
2, won't we?
yeah,
Well, and it could be that Gren was told, "Hey, get rid of this ship" or something, so that they can't find him.
ditch it so it can't be tracked.
Yeah, it's
we
possible.
know there's at least one additional set of tracking systems existing on the swordfish.
At least.
Yeah,
All right, you guys. Before we get into this week's segment, Josh has been referring to a new review that we got, and as you know, we like to read our reviews here at Sudden But Inevitable. This person did not, surprisingly, leave a name with their review, and I don't remember it word for word. Josh, would you like to read it out loud, and then I will take over?
Oh no, I don't have it with me. I thought you had it in front of you.
Oh, okay. I
Pull it
don't,
up
but
really
I can.
fast. It's an iTunes review, right?
It is an iTunes review.
Yeah.
And
give me like 1 second here.
if you wouldn't mind, just go ahead and pull it up. What I'm going to have Josh do is I'll have Josh read through the whole review. It's very brief. And then I will respond to that. And then we will take turns responding to that because I do have some questions for you guys. I feel like it's only fair that I ask you a couple questions.
Okay, this it's a 1 star. Woo! We made it, guys. We got a 1 star.
Our other one was 2.
Well, yeah. Now we've really made it. So, this guy's name is Obnoxious. The title of the comment is ST0000P. I'm assuming that means stop.
Oh. Stoop.
Stoop. What are you just sitting on a stoop over there? So he writes. God, I wish I had some music for this, like some background piano
We'll
music.
put it in post.
He writes, Jesse's narcissism is insufferable. Even his co-hosts seem annoyed with his forced persona that he believes is likable.
So, 2 things. I have been very open that my narcissism is the driving force behind Sudden But Inevitable. Without my narcissism, this show wouldn't exist. If I didn't simply need for Josh to have seen Firefly to be able to talk about space westerns with him, then we wouldn't be here, which it sounds like you'd be okay with. But I have to ask, which thing is it? Do I think it's likable or am I a narcissist? Because if I'm a narcissist, I don't care if it's likable. Like, that's sort of contradictory. Now, that having been said, I think it's fair to ask, Josh and Ricky, do you hate me and would you like to leave the show? This is your opportunity. No hard feelings. I don't want to make you feel pressure.
Right at the end of a season is perfect timing,
I
honestly.
know. That's why I'm putting it here. I could have done this last week.
Look at him thinking. Man, I've been friends with you for 26
Mic
years.
drop, just
I don't think one little tiny podcast is gonna change anything.
No, I'll stay.
I feel like we had
He
to
said
give,
reluctantly.
I feel we had to give the opportunity because I don't want that reviewer to feel like I am holding you two against your will. My word, what an angry individual. Are you okay? Just wow.
My word.
But again, yeah, get you some narcissism. It's the way to go. It helps you deflect things like this, like that, and it is no problem whatsoever. Speaking of things that are no problem whatsoever, we're going to move into our first segment for this week, which of course is Shot of the Show. Shot of the Show, as you know, is where we share our favorite visual moments from this week's episode, those moments that now live rent-free in our heads despite our best efforts. Of course, as we try to do whenever there is a guest sitting in the chair. Phil, if you don't mind, let's talk about your shot first. Josh, give us the time code, and Phil, walk us through it.
Phil's comes at 10 minutes and 58 seconds. It is Papam.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, Phil, you're a little bit
No,
muted.
Phil's muted. I do want to say
Nope,
that
that's
we should
on my end. Sorry.
Oh,
we
there
should
we go.
Photoshop
Perfect.
Cam's face onto that, by the way.
I don't even need to. He pulled off the exact pose.
You're
But-
right. You're right.
Go ahead, Phil.
No. So this is Gren at the bar as Spike or as Jet and Faye are coming in to attempt to rescue Spike, and Gren just we've seen them be the one saying, hey, we can't have weapons in here, we can't have anything. And the first thing that happens, as soon as there's a threat, they pull 2 pistols and just unhesitatingly aim at each person coming in and threatening them. And it's just spectacular with the lighting in the bar, everything about their outfit, which is very, very Klaus Nomi.
And looks like possibly the most comfortable shirt I've ever seen in my life.
That just looks spectacular. I would wear the shit out of that.
I don't think Jerry Seinfeld would be happy about wearing that shirt.
It is not that puffy of a shirt, Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. It's more of the wizard sleeves sort of a shirt.
No, it is just a fantastic scene, and I know we've seen iterations of it throughout because it's in the opening sequence, but getting to see where that bit actually came from is awesome.
Yes, and the payoff of seeing it 10 times before this and going, where's that shot? And then finally seeing it. Yes, I 100% agree with you. Callie, we forgive you. It's totally cool. It's fine. We know that you're a true SBI fan. We're not worried about that at all. Sean,
and then just
our friend Sean really quick says he had pretty good hate mail too. Their first hate mail was pretty good, so he was proud of that. Thank you, Sean. I feel like we have joined the community now. We are brothers. Go
we
ahead,
have
Phil.
arrived. And Sinacera to answer, tequila kind of mezcal, so like smoky tequila.
Ooh, I can dig that.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that I can probably dig, Josh, if you don't mind, give me Ricky D's time code, and then Ricky D, walk me through your shot.
Ricky's comes at the 15-minute and 35-second mark.
Yeah, this is when they're all kind of leaving the alley. Spike, I believe, has been dumped into the trunk. And Faye is kind of walking away, and they're kind of going their own ways, although we know they're going to come back. But what really struck me was the purple ambiance in this.
Yeah.
Now, if it's red, they're going into danger. If it's green, there's something good coming. If it's blue, you think tranquility. Yellow or orange, you're thinking something good's going to happen. But purple
Neutral.
leaves me with this feeling of I don't know what's going to happen. It's just
It's weird.
grungy, and I really liked the way that left me feeling.
It is really ambiguous lighting, and that is fantastic. That's awesome breakdown. Putting
like
that putting
like
that
a-
color theory to work, man.
I was
That's
going to
good.
say, it's like a color out of space has splashed across
Yeah.
everything here.
I
Um,
think that one was kind of described as a weird yellow, but I mean, that's-
But in the movie, it was represented as like a pinkish sort of, kind of like the color behind me, right? Like it was sort of, anyways, I just wanted you to know that I knew what that was, Phil. I thought that was obvious.
That whole description, I actually had a conversation with a friend the other. I was FaceTiming with a friend, and I was in the car FaceTiming. I don't judge me. My phone is on a handle, and whatever. But
You
anyway, I'm
didn't say he was
FaceTiming.
driving.
No, but I was behind a car at a stoplight.
Damn it.
And the car in front of me had really bright red lights, and so looking into my phone, I could see me a little bit, and my whole screen was red, and I got really bad Firefly flashbacks,
You got the brake
really
light
bad wash
illumination going.
flashbacks where like the whole cockpit's red, and I was like, I need to get away from this car because I feel like I'm gonna get a spear chucked in through my window. And I was reminded of that by all those color descriptions you had, Ricky. So
So
Quick,
very
Josh,
good, very good for
Josh.
sure.
How do Reavers clean their spears?
people are
Through
going to
the
do this to you
wash.
for the rest of your life, Josh. And you know what? My narcissistic ass is really proud of that. So, our
That's cool.
friend
I'm really annoyed that
Sarah-
you're proud of it. So
Our friend Sincera in the chat says, ever notice the Matrix has a green undertone, possibly designed to create good feeling among the human batteries? I always read the green undertone to meant that we're looking into an artificial screen a la the Apple IIe computer, the coding that we see at the start. But I feel like it's easily interpreted as more than one thing. Now, to Ricky's point, in that last shot, if you could bring it back up, Josh, the purple in there not only is very nebulous and just like what is happening, but if you look where Jet is, he's got more of the earthen tones going on, which has fit his color palette this whole series and in the original, of course. Sincera had a slight stroke. Why you got to do that to the Firefly fans in the chat, man? Sean says too soon. I'm sure Rosie has just left at this point because she's probably furious with you. Every time I've seen her see that joke on the internet, she like gets mad. So, and fully understandable. And Rosie, I back you up 100%. Now,
I make that joke because it upsets me.
the other thing about it is that not only do these earthen tones match Jet's color palette, but purple. That's the color we most strongly associate with Faye, right? I mean, that's a little bit less intelligent than Ricky's interpretation, but Faye, purple. Now, Josh, if you don't mind, give us your time code and bring up your shot of the show for this week.
oh man. So my time code is at the 45-minute mark. And of course,
Oh, yeah.
I had to pick that one because it took me a minute to get this actual shot where her face is all like crazy, you know, and doing the spooky thing that they do. Like
but not fisheye. This is one of the regular lenses. So this
Right,
is one
but
of the
it's-
shots where you go, oh, look, it's just a person.
but it's a Dutch camera angle still with,
Yep.
you know, Iron on the side over there. And this is also the only shot with Iron in it. So that one was for you,
the
Ricky.
Barkdale test.
It does
Yes.
just barely.
Yes. Either way, I mean, I was so stoked like at the very end of this because I binged this when it first came out. And right at the end, and I see Ed, and I'm like, oh my God, I cannot wait for season 2. And then a week later, I was like,
And to
So
Ricky's point from the previous image, we got a green bathe light here going, everything is going to be okay. It's a new beginning. Spike is going to live through this again. I think you also brought up on Twitter this week that Ricky brought up that Spike's syndicate name should have been Indestructible, not
Yeah.
Fearless.
no doubt.
Yeah. So I
Unbreakable.
think if you look at it, this is the example that proves this character could have worked if people weren't such jerks. So, Josh, if you don't mind, give us my time code and my shot for this week, my friend.
So yours is at the 26-minute and 39-second mark, and it's pow.
Pure, unadulterated joy. Faye is having one of those moments where you get to take out all of your pain and frustration and anger over everything that has happened to you on people that very, very likely deserve it. Like 99% probably deserve it. And she is unloading in this scene. And I gotta say, I was giddy. I laughed out loud. I almost woke my wife when I was watching this the other night. Her tongue in that scene, as our friend Callie points out, her laughter in that scene, as Callie points out, to me, her tongue, the way that she's got the laughing going, you can see the insane ripple where she's trying to hold everything in. She says, "Welcome to the ouch" when she's killing everybody. It's like, Faye is so pure in so many ways, and this scene for me is the expression of that. This is a perfect distillation of live action Faye Valentine. Daniela Pineda, the world is forever in your debt for this performance, and we do not deserve your season 2, but I will keep asking for it probably endlessly. So get ready for that. All right. Rosie says she is still here. She's not furious, but she did live through Wash's death in 2004 during a screen test, so it still hurts. Sin Sarah says, I love Hitman. No matter what you do to them, you never feel bad. Our friend Marv from Sin City reminds us. Yes. Yeah.
Rosie. Wow.
During the screen test. So Rosie was one of the people that almost said, nope, this is not how you should make this movie.
and like to not even be able to talk about it after the screen test.
Yeah, that had to be. Ugh. Okay,
like you
guys,
have to go home and hold that in, like just
before everyone starts crying. Let's
In the
move into our
shower,
next segment, which
burning
of
my
course
clothes.
is called No Finer One-Liner. No Finer One-Liner, of course, is coming up right after we share our friend Angelus from the chat's pick for shot of the show, which he managed to get into Josh at the start of the show this week. Josh, what is the time code?
Hey.
At the 19-minute and 1 second mark.
This is the
There's
dual
not much
screen
to
that
say about this, but
it's
just
the
great.
split screen that Ricky had mentioned earlier, where it feels very comic book, very animation. You've got two things happening at the same time here: hand on a gun and one key opening the trunk. And excellent choice as always, Angelus. And thank you for participating. We appreciate you being here and for getting your picks in every week. Now, as I was mentioning, we are going to talk about No Finer One-Liner, which of course is where we talk about our favorite dialogue from this week's episode. Phil, why don't you keep that going? Josh, play Phil's clip, and then we'll have Phil walk us right through it.
And everyone fancied you, the angel. Only one standing at your side. I, the devil.
Yeah. I think that is probably the best bit encapsulating the entire relationship between Spike and Vicious in the live action version of the thing. We get a little bit of a touch on Vicious's whole bit from the anime about angels falling and becoming devils. We get all the throwbacks to Ballad of Fallen Angels. We get just the whole idea that everyone thought you were so perfect. Like, well, yeah, I was next to you. Look at what's our comparison here?
And
just thought that was.
You get that Vicious actually, truly is delusional.
Yeah,
he goes, "I'm the devil.
Me?
I'm the bad
Me?
guy. Like
I'm the villain of this whole thing."
He honestly believes that he is the good guy of his own story, just as everyone does, right? But it's to see him actually be confronted with that is kind of like, oh man, that's probably how somebody in that situation would act. They'd be like, what do you mean I'm the bad guy? Like, I know that's how I would act if somebody said I was the bad guy and say, I don't know, like a podcast review or something. But I gotta say, I loved the emotion between these two, right? Because it's so familial. Like they
and
really
then
do
just
feel like brothers.
The whisper
Yeah.
from Spike, the whispered response.
Because he doesn't want to hurt Vicious, even though he knows Vicious totally deserves it. Because they still care about each other, even though they're like at gunpoint, basically, or sword point, So, yeah, man, excellent choice. Josh, go ahead with Ricky D's clip, my friend.
Glad to see you're still kicking. Hey, whatever happened to that unkillable super assassin?
Yeah, I killed him.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, this was, we always love it when Spike's being super cool. And this is an excellent example. Earlier when Faye just walked in, she goes, "Oh, I thought you were dead." And Spike goes, "Yeah, I get that."
I get that a lot.
And yeah, it's just such an excellent example of Spike and how he deals with the expectations of his death. And he's over it. He's like, "Yeah, I'm people think I'm dead, but I'm not. I killed the unkillable guy. What are we doing next?"
And, little do they all know, Spike is actually the unkillable super assassin in the room. at any given moment, right? But yeah, the snark. I mean that feels like Firefly to me, not in like a this was ripped off, but in like a that's the speed and the pacing and the tone. Like that's fun. That's Space Cowboys to me, and I love it. Josh, go ahead and give us your clip, my friend.
Is this an open bar by chance?
Oh, you're a fun one, aren't you?
The fucking funnest.
Duh.
And there's gotta be this has to be the next chapter in Faye's, journey. Like it has to be, right? Because Faye has only very recently had her sexual awakening, and she wants to sample the entire buffet before settling on a main dish. And
Well,
I feel like
I've
this
said
is
that before. I've definitely
Yeah.
said that at a bar before.
Oh,
Like gone in and been like said something snarky, and they're like, "Oh, well, you're fun," and I go, "Oh, the funnest." Like I've definitely been there. I've probably been there recently, and probably will be there soon again. But yeah, I just I love that interaction, and it really makes me want a spin-off series with these two.
Mm.
I mean, come on, man. Just
Yeah.
their little, just that one interaction between them makes me believe in my heart of hearts that they would get a second season.
To our friend Angelus in the chat's point, I feel that Faye is in 99% of the shots and one-liners. We should actually go do that math because I don't think
Confirm that right now.
he's probably not that far off. No, I mean like over the course of the series, even. Like I think
I
if we
can
were to,
confirm that
because you
right
have
now.
you guys, new thing at Sudden But Inevitable this season. We have a spreadsheet with information on it. I know it's very new, very different. It's the edge of professional independent podcasting. Josh, while you bring that sheet up, if you wouldn't mind playing my clip for this week's No Finer One-Liner.
I think I might know where I grew up.
Can it keep? Because I need you on this. Spike needs you on this. Once we get him back, we can help you track your shit down. All of it. We'll figure it out. Together.
Let's go get Spike.
You can hear that one instant of hesitation there, and then she draws in a breath and says, "Let's go get Spike." That's the kind of resignation that you have when you're dealing with family. You are trying to do the right thing. You're trying to be a great man. Oh, well, a good man. All right, man. Pretty good. So
I'm all right.
this, I mean, this is the most emotion that we get between these two ever, right? And I had to illustrate it because I feel like so much comes across just in the vocal part of her performance there that really makes you feel for her. And I mean, we have evidence. We got, 13, 14 episodes of evidence that Josh and Ricky were able to get through the whole original anime and kind of not care about her backstory till the one episode where it was kind of tear-jerky. But it was like, up until then, they're like, Faye, And we kind of had the opposite experience this season, I think. So that really speaks, again, to the strength of the Daniela Pineda's performance. I can't stop talking about it, and I probably never will. Our friend Rosie says it makes her sad because it didn't happen. They didn't do it together, and I agree. Real quickly, our friend Sincera says, well, wait a minute. Faye didn't say she was a virgin until Mel the Mechanic. She just hadn't had an orgasm, and that's true. And I didn't say that she was a virgin. I'm just saying that she now is much more open in her sexual life based on the articles that we saw her reading. Shout out to Cameron from Green Shirt, A Newbie's Trek Through the Next Generation. Go ahead, Josh. What do you got? You're muted.
Still
You're
muted.
muted. I love you. You're muted.
Son of a. So I just worked really hard to figure this out, and so I'm gonna give you the top 3 picks. I actually didn't make a video of this. God, I can't I can't believe I messed that up. Excuse me. Number 1 on top pick person, Spike, hands down. Spike has more picks from us and guests throughout this whole series than anybody else. Number 2 would be Faye. Number 3 would be Vicious.
Oh, wow. Not
Yeah.
Jet, huh?
From what I can tell, yeah. There's a lot more Vicious than there's Jet. I just went through every single screenshot that we had and just kind of did a mental count. But we definitely have way more Spike than Faye. So Kinda.
Our friend Steve in the chat is running into a frustrating thing where Sean will not nerd argue with you almost over anything. And yes, I agree. It can be very frustrating, Steve. Thank you for bringing that up. Now, gentlemen, we do generally assign a rating to these episodes, and then we do some quick math, and then we get out of here. We're going to extend that just a little bit this evening because it is the end of a season, but let's go ahead and start with those ratings anyway, and let's stick with the rotation. Phil, my friend, what do you give this episode of Cowboy Bebop out of 10?
I had to give this one a 10 out of 10. Um, even if I hadn't known going into it that this was going to be the end, that there was not, plans for a continuation. The dialogue, the sequences, the cinematography of everything, the absolute shot for shot, line for line nailing of some of those sequences. It was everything that I think the fans I think it's everything the fans needed from a live action Cowboy Bebop adaptation, all contained within this one episode.
I got to agree with you 100%. I think that if you are a fan of the original series and you don't like this episode, I'm not going to say that you don't know how to watch TV, but what I will say is, like, what are you doing? Like, do you just not want to be happy? Please, let's talk about it. Josh, what do you have out of 10 this week, my friend?
I'm doing a 10. Because it's the best choreograph in a fight scene, choreography in a fight scene. It's a sword versus a gun, in like the most ridiculous way possible. There's like every character that you like is in this. Gren, Anna, Jet, Spike, Faye, Ed, Ein, Vicious, Julia, like they're all in this. It definitely this episode encapsulates the whole series. And if I was going to show someone one episode or two episodes, it would be probably the last two episodes, 9 and 10, because it does a good job with a backstory and then a good job with the ending to it.
Yeah, and it does have it does, to your point. It's if you watch just those two episodes, you'd get like 80% of the story, I think. I mean, of the pertinent story. I think you would miss out on a ton of really great stuff, obviously.
Oh, absolutely. But if someone's like, I'll watch 2 episodes of this show,
Right.
give me the 2 episodes, it would be those 2.
Yeah, you've got 2 hours to hook me. All right, so Ricky D, no pressure. What do you got, my friend?
I'm going to keep it up, 10 out of 10. I went into this episode thinking we have a lot to wrap up in the next 40 minutes. There's a lot of storylines we got to go through here, and I was not disappointed in any of it. So I'm going 10 out of 10.
All right, well, I guess that I'm going to have to be the one. No, I'm just kidding. I'm giving it a 10 as well. I mean, it's a perfect adaptation. I mean, I think that the series as a whole is a perfect adaptation, but this episode in particular, as has been mentioned by the rest of you, is just it's shot for shot Ballad of Fallen Angels remixed with everything new about this series, right? It's the new Vicious and the new Spike and the new Jet and the new Julia and the new Gren. It's all of that stuff interacting in a perfect way that somehow still gives us exactly what we wanted, and it gives us the exact right combination and patterns of note for a jazz song that we have heard 1,000 times, but it has this much improvisation on it, and it is a thing of beauty. And I feel like just to give it to the whole series, we have to give this episode a 10. So, I mean, that's 100%. That's 40 out of 40. That's 10 out of 10. This is a perfect episode of Cowboy Bebop. I don't disagree with that, even just a tiny
I
little
think it's
bit,
the
honestly.
only perfect episode of the season, right?
that we've had across all of us. Yeah, it is.
And Jesse, as someone who played jazz in high school, I sincerely appreciate that.
Oh, that makes me feel really good because I was worried that I failed to do that in a way that made me look like an absolute moron. So thank you, Phil. I got to say, having you on the screen, I think, makes all of us feel smarter. So I'm happy to know that it may actually be functioning that way. Now, our friend Callie says, "'Tis a cutie, the kitty cat that Ricky is holding up. He is currently not on the screen, but there is a cat, and I'm going to surmise that the cat may be the reason he's no longer on the screen." Our friend Steve says, "My brain is mush from school. I need to sharpen it." That's why he's picking a fight with our friend Sean, it sounds like. I am not opposed to that even a little bit. I think that that's very cool. And our friend Callie hears that alcohol is good for that. Maybe give, I don't know, like say a prairie oyster a shot, Steve. I know that you are down. And you have the constitution for it. Now, you guys, that's it for the series. That's it for live action Cowboy Bebop. It's over. There are no more episodes. But
Womp womp.
we've been talking a lot about season 2 and how we're gonna hashtag save Cowboy Bebop. We're gonna get hashtag more Cowboy Bebop. So, in the spirit of that, I feel like we should probably do a bonus episode where we get together with some of our podcasting friends and we cast season 2. We just cast the remaining characters from the anime that we haven't seen yet in live action, and we'll talk about some of the plots that we want to see, and we'll cast those characters. We'll talk about what we think that might look like. We don't have a date planned for that yet, but I think it's definitely the way to go. And then maybe combined with that, or maybe its own separate bonus episode, I'd love to just do a retrospective on this whole series compared to the anime, get, season-long thoughts from our guests that we've had, that sort of a thing. Now, to that point, I'd like to start right here and ask you, Phil, if you were going to rate this series as a whole, right? Not as an adaptation, but just on its own merits, like if this series if you were going to give it a rating out of 10, what would you give it?
On its own merits, without compare, like if I'd gone into this fresh, without knowing the source material, 9 out of 10.
I can't say I disagree. It's so stylish and
It's just fun.
yeah,
I mean,
kind of the only word for it, right?
it is legitimately just fun. It's short, it's sweet, it is stylish, it is just, yeah, 9 out of 10 overall.
I agree with you 100%. Our friend Sean in the live chat agrees with you 100%. Live chat, go ahead and throw up your full series rating if you want, and throw up your episode rating. Do anything, live chat. Put whatever things you want in the chat, within reason, of course. Don't link bomb me or anything. Now, we have to take a moment to let the folks at home know, listening in podcast land, if you're not here live, our friend Ricky D has dropped off of the screen. Ricky D is currently very ill, and you
He actually
could not
just
tell.
said, he just texted the group chat saying, "I have no idea what the damn cat did. Might take me a second to get back in."
He is working on it, but I what I said stands. Our friend Callie rates it 9.5 out of 10. Our friend Steve says boobs. But Ricky D is actually currently very ill, and he is pushing through some serious discomfort to be here with us tonight, and I can't tell you how much that means to us. But all week in the group chat, he's been like, "You guys, I'm trying," and we're like, "Dude, whatever you have to do." So it's actually a good segue, because I sometimes talk about how, we all have our real lives going on outside of podcasting, and we did already mention that earlier with Josh. But this season in particular, right, has had a lot of stuff happening for all of us. There's a lot of stuff where it's like, we built the spreadsheet that we talked about earlier so that we could just put our picks on there and then meet up at the end of the week and make a podcast out of it, right? There was no, "Hey, you guys, are you watching at the same time I'm watching?" like we did with the anime, or like we did with Firefly, right? Because there just was not, we couldn't do it this season, and it's not anybody's fault or anything. It was just, everybody's real life had other demands of them. But I gotta say, I don't know about you, Josh, I think it kind of worked out. Like, having some amount of structure for us available to put things to may have really improved our ability to make a show. So
I will most definitely be doing another spreadsheet next season
Yeah.
because personally for me it was like, I mean, especially with guests and stuff, it's so nice to be able to, like, Phil hit me up yesterday. Hey man, here's my shots. And like
Yep.
you and Ricky already had yours in the spreadsheet. So it was like, cool. I can just sit down and do my work instead of having to be like, hey, let me email you or message you 12 times to get your shot. Like, but
Yep.
no, I really think this season went great. I mean, we had our first season was a great beginning. Our second season was a fun, like, it didn't have a sophomore slump, which was good. Sometimes those second seasons of things have a bit of a sophomore slump, and I don't feel like we had that as much. But I really feel like this last season, we've hit our stride, and I'm so excited about the future of SBI because it's just up from here. You know, like there's so many ideas that I have and that you have and that Ricky has that we want to put to fruition, and like I'm excited to make that happen.
So speaking of Josh, this is actually right now our 50th episode. Right now, this is our 50th episode. If you look at the feed, this will show up as, I think, episode 52 because we have a trailer in there that counts as an episode, and we had to split one episode in half because of some recording issues. But this is episode 50 for us. This is 50 freaking episodes, you guys.
Wow.
We have been doing Sudden But Inevitable for more than a year. This is officially just a show that happens. I got to say, welcome back, Ricky D. We are glad to have you here with us. Really quickly, let's go through these in the chat. Our friend Angela says 8 out of 10 for the series. Callie says 0.5 off out of 10 because it needs more Ein. Rosie says agreed, 8 out of 10. It was short and I needed more. And they're all welcoming Ricky back to the show. We are happy to have you here, Ricky. Now, as we did mention, yes, the future of SBI. The future of SBI. So first, we're going to do these couple of very cool live action Cowboy Bebop bonus episodes because we cannot let it go. Then there's going to be potentially a couple of bonus episodes with movies like we did in the last season while Josh sorts all of the rest of his moving situation out. And then for season 4, we are jumping. Ricky D is having feline issues once more. It's just a cat, Ricky. We love the cat. Remember, the cat is a living thing. For season 4, we are definitely jumping headfirst into Death Note. Now, Death Note is not a space western. I do admit that. I'm fully aware of that. But I have it on good authority.
It is, in fact, neither of those things.
Ricky
It is
D's
neither space nor western.
True. But Ricky D's number one concern with the series is the quality of it. And our friend Philip K., who was roommates with Ricky D., has a sneaking suspicion that we can get Ricky D to enjoy Death Note. Now, that also means that our friend Callie D., no relation to Ricky D., may be stopping by slightly more frequently as a guest co-host than she did this season because Death Note is kind of Callie's jam, in case you can't tell right there. So, that's sort of what we're looking at right now for the future of Sudden But Inevitable. There will be actually, let me really quickly throw this out there. There's going to be a 1 or 2 week break. I have a dental appointment. So there's going to be a 1 or 2 week break. Then there will be 2 bonus episodes. Then there will maybe be 2 more. And then there will be a new season of Sudden But Inevitable covering Death Note.
Man,
Now,
and you got the Pike show coming out, and then we got
Exactly.
Questy season 3, 4 coming out, and then like
and that will be
MCM coming out.
so.
Bestflix.
This will be the first time that Josh and I have ever been able to have what I think is going to have to be called dueling podcasts. So, Duel of the Podcast Fates, maybe? So, what Josh is referring to, of course, is my new podcast with Cameron and producer John of Green Shirt, A Newbie's Trek Through the Next Generation, which, of course, is called Open Pike Night, which is a Star Trek podcast dedicated to covering Star Trek Strange New Worlds. If you know anything about Star Trek, you know that the first teaser trailer for Strange New Worlds just dropped this week. Our first episode of Open Pike Night dropped on the same day, and we used some time crystal shenanigans to assess that trailer and ask for some feedback from the audience. Open Pike Night is designed to be a call-in show where people share their thoughts on Star Trek or their fears or their hopes, their dreams. Call in, leave us 90 seconds of audio at openpike@gmail.com. Good Lord, Angeles, I don't know how I missed that. Yes, it will be called Pod Racing. Now, What
don't,
this means is
you
that
and Cameron again, like that's just you guys are just gonna bully me and Justin the whole time.
now what Josh is referring to, of course, is that Strange New Worlds, the newest Star Trek series, will be running partially concurrently with the new Obi-Wan Kenobi series on Disney Plus, which means that Quest Me is coming back, and they are going to be covering that partially overlapping. I am going to have so much fun doing that with you, Josh, because like I said, we haven't got to do it before. So, really quickly, one more time. Go follow on Twitter at OpenPike. Send your audio of what you thought of the trailer to openpike@gmail.com. Send your audio of what you thought of the trailer to openpike@gmail.com. Those of you here in the live chat, that's not a glitch. I was doing that for audio reasons. Then go to Twitter and follow me at Sudden Butt so that you can get everything that comes from Sudden But Inevitable and Open Pike Night at the same time from two separate fire hoses of just endless tweeting, because you know how I am.
And
Josh.
then listen to them, with one earbud in each ear and just have
Yes.
them both going into your head at the exact same time. It's going to be
There are going to be some episodes where we, cross do things like it's like WandaVision and Loki where things
don't cross
happen
the
at
streams,
same time.
Josh.
Don't
Don't
won't
cross
cross the streams, but I totally kid that'll never happen. No. We might be okay at editing, but like
Yes. Really quickly, our friend Rosie in the chat on Twitter, it is at Open Pike. It is the name of the show is Open Pike Night, but we went with Open Pike because we figure that's easier to remember. So at Open Pike on Twitter or at openpike@gmail.com to send your audio clip.
Maybe I'll start a Quest Me Twitter this week. Just for that.
That's true.
I will.
Speaking
will
of
do that
things
this week.
that are true, our friend Sean says you have to be excited about Pike's beard or Jesse will Twitter shame you. That's true. I will. I'm no problem admitting that at all. And also, they managed to sneak Steve's Enterprise charcuterie board into the trailer. If you know what he's talking about, throw up a thumbs in the live chat. You guys, I've been talking for another 20 minutes. Josh has been telling us about Quest Me. Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. What is the news surrounding Best Flicks, my friend?
You are muted first, though. Make sure to.
I love you.
Josh and I did an episode of Suicide Squad earlier this week, right before I started vomiting like a fountain. So I need to get that edited up.
Very thematically appropriate.
Yes, I have to get that edited up and dropped, but I really enjoyed the Suicide Squad movie. I'm actually on my second watch through of Peacemaker right now, which is very unlike me. I usually
that's really cool. I'm glad you like those because
I tend to stay pretty far away from the superhero stuff, but the attitude and the comedy and everything that's coming out of these James Gunn DC superhero movies, I'm really digging it.
I tell you, man, you got to watch the Batman. You're really gonna like the Batman.
What if I just watched The Dark Knight again?
You could do that, but then watch the Batman.
Our friend Angelus in the chat says, "Why does Ricky D remind me of that scene from The Exorcist?" Probably because that's what he was going for.
It was well not far off. I'm amazed at what my body was able to do.
Let's immediately stop talking about this.
Did you crab walk down the stairs?
Stop it, please. As our guest, Phil, if the good folks out there in the live chat or listening in podcast land need more Phil in their days, how do they get that?
All right. Y'all can find me on Twitter. I am at FlipWriter. You follow me there for all manner of library ramblings and just kind of random stuff about various things that I have seen or read. You can also find my blog at swordsoftheancients.com, where I post a lot of book reviews. Most recently, Gretchen Felker Martin's Manhunt, which is about a gender-based apocalypse and how it impacts specifically trans people, which is absolutely spectacular, violent, vicious, bloody, and just fun. And coming up soon is John Scalzi's upcoming book, The Kaiju Preservation Society, which is about what happens when you kind of mash up Jurassic Park, with Pacific Rim, and it has been an absolute blast of a book so far.
That sounds like a ton of fun. I'll be honest, I'm super interested in that suddenly. But perhaps inevitably. Now, I have to ask you guys before we get out of here, because it's going to be a while before we talk to any of these fine, beautiful people in our live chat, which include Sin Sarah, Angelus, Rosie, Callie, Sean, Sky, I believe, was here earlier.
Smallville was in there earlier, yeah.
So, is there anything that you guys feel like we have to say before we go kind of off the air for a couple of weeks here? Before, I mean, like, do you need to get anything out? You know, any thanks or anything like
Sinistera,
that?
Steve requested the name of the book one more time. The Scalzi one is the Kaiju Preservation Society. It's coming out in a couple of weeks.
And I will put a link to that, somewhere to buy that in the show notes this week, so that that'll be easier for you listeners.
I don't really
Josh,
have
my
much,
friend?
man. I mean, like, there's, I might not be on a couple of the upcoming bonus episodes just because of what's going on, but I will try my best to be a part of all of those because I love to podcast with you guys. So
What's going on?
I'm just super excited to get going again. I'm sad that this is the last one, but I'm ready to start planning the next one. I'm ready for this open Pike Night Quest Me war that apparently is about to go down.
A friendly competition. It'll be a friendly competition. It's an independent podcast. It can't be warlike by nature.
Whatever, man. Other than that, like, I just can't thank you guys all enough for being here, you guys doing the podcast with me, everyone in the live chat. You guys like are incredible. I appreciate the shit out of every one of you. You guys are always messaging us in our inboxes and giving us fun little tidbits, and I always enjoy talking to you guys. So it's great to see you every week, and I'm just so excited to keep doing it. So that's about all I got. Oh, Russell Wilson of the Broncos. Go Broncos!
Ricky D, my friend, have you got anything you feel like you have to share before we wrap this up for the evening?
Just thank you for everybody that always comes every week. Thank you, Phil, for being such an awesome part of this. I'm thrilled that our friendship has kind of come back to life a little bit through this, so that's been great. And just, it's really nice having people here every week. I think I would have really liked to take tonight off if it weren't for our entire audience. If I didn't know that Callie was waking up at 6 a.m., if there wasn't, and it's like, you know what, I can tough it out for another hour and a half, 2 hours, sitting here talking a little bit, if that's what it takes, and I'm happy to do so. And thank all of you. And this darn cat needs to stay off my desk.
And thank you all for having me, repeatedly coming on the show. I sincerely appreciate being invited to come in and ramble about Cowboy Bebop shit with y'all for a while.
Of course. And thank you for coming. We're getting to that point where we're like, people are going to start having to be left out of seasons because we're making so many friends. Like, and I honestly,
good thing we have like 8 shows you can come be a part of.
Well, and so what I was going to say, actually, really quick programming note. Excuse me. For Death Note, I'm thinking we're going to go one episode at a time, you guys. They're 22 minutes each, and there are 26 episodes. That puts us in your ears and in front of your faces for half a year before we have to think about what happens next for Sudden But Inevitable.
Hopefully not for 2 hours a Friday. Maybe more like 45 minutes.
Or, maybe an hour and 10 minutes. Like, we can get through things a little quicker if there's not quite as much to talk about. And I think that will make every show better, honestly. So, just a quick heads up there. Our friend Angelus wants to leave a final note. It's going to take a bit to type, so go ahead and type that up, Angelus, while I say thank you to you guys on the screen with me. Josh and I have known each other since the first day of first grade. It's not just a story that we tell. It's literally how we met. We didn't make our first podcast together until at least several days after that, but it was the beginning of a literal lifelong friendship. I've known Josh since that day and continue to know Josh. So to find something that works for both of us as a creative outlet and a way to spend time together without putting each other in danger depending on the circumstances, for example. It's just, I feel like we found our thing. That makes me really grateful. And Ricky D, to know that you came to this like sort of just on a whim, like I'm going to turn on my computer and see what these people that I used to know are up to. It's huge for me. Like to reconnect with somebody over something this big and and blow that up into 50 episodes and no joke, like over 24 hours of content easily. Like it's just so cool to me. Like it's the essence of a space western to find more family members, right? And I feel like you guys will agree with me when I say we really feel like the indie podcasting community that we have found falls in that category. Sean from Cheap Seat, Cameron from Green Shirt, Chris and Leslie from Measuring the Score, Philip K from Flip Writer, Swords of the Ancients. Shit, I forgot what your suffix was. But to my point, right? We've talked to Meg and Carla from Bedwed Behead, Lauren from Beard Owl Podcast. She's never been here, but we talked to her on Twist My Arm, and we had a blast. And there's so many, like, I can't even name all the podcasts that we've had as guests. You know, the guys from Bebop Tabletop were here, and I went there, and Bebop Beat had me on. Like, we've met so many cool people with this. And of course, everybody in the live chat that we met through doing this. This is just, I love being here. Our friend Angelus has finished typing his note. Coming from the Alita fandom, it is so refreshing to come across another group of fans that are just simply passionate about what they love instead of wasting energy on hate. Hashtag save Cowboy Bebop. I appreciate that. It really means a lot to me because I could sit here and bag on all the things I don't like all night, but that would just suck to watch and listen to, I think. I mean, I could do it, but it wouldn't be fun. Sean says, thank you guys for your support of Cheap Seat Reviews. You're the best. Looking forward to more content. Trust me, brother. There's more content coming, and you're going to be part of it. Our friend Callie says, I love your optimism about the amount of talking you can do. That's the only way to get through my life in real life, Callie. And our friend Sincera says, hashtag save Cowboy Bebop. You guys, what do you say? Should we call it an evening? Should we wrap it up, get out of here, get back to our real lives for at least a couple of days? All right. So for the sign-off order this evening, let's go Phil, Ricky, Josh, and myself. So for Sudden But Inevitable, I have been Jesse.
I have been Philip K. at Flip Writer.
This is Ricky D unmuting himself from Best Flicks with Ricky D.
This is Josh, not going to say anything snarky to Ricky D.
One
we
per
will
episode, everybody.
We will see you next season, legally sanctioned interplanetary vigilante. Woo!
Wow.